Alrighty, everybody, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of Tier Talks, Tier Reviews, whatever you like to call this, by P Native Sports. It's your boy Cam Theory. Today, I have an interesting video for you guys. Just kind of wanted to change it up, and obviously, if you guys are subscribed to this channel, you probably like college football. That's kind of what our primary focus is on this channel. We have 54 yards coming back soon. I think I'll be actually doing some of those episodes more myself. Here's for probably the short term, and then we'll kind of just reassess things and how we want to continue to go about the show and revamp it and whatnot. But I do miss talking about college football. Obviously, you have people like Pikel, Josh Pate, etc., talking about the college football weekly. So I feel like that's something I could also do, provide my insight on it and kind of some of the topics, because there's always news going on and there's always topics to cover within college football. But in today's tier list, we're gonna do break down every single FBS team. I don't know how many there is now. I remember back in the day, it used to be like 126. Now there's probably like over 140. But we're gonna go through all the FBS teams. Some I have more knowledge than others, especially with some of the smaller teams. But we're gonna do it based off playoff locks, playoff contenders, solid bowl teams, average teams, 4 to 5 win teams, and then awful. So I'll do my best to kind of gauge and go off this. There might be some teams that I have like no clue about that, so maybe I add like an additional category just so I'm not kind of just guesstimating. So we'll do that. We'll add an additional no clue category and see how that goes. All right, so we're going to start off. We're just going to go in alphabetical order, basically, based off what I see. It's just probably easier for me instead of like picking and choosing. But started off first with Air Force. Air Force Academy. They were really good last year, actually. They were one of the teams that were undefeated for a while. Group of 5 team was making some noise. Also, too, I might use Google as well just to kind of look up some stuff. But yeah, Air Force, good football team. They had the Jim Thorpe Award winner last year, so I'm not too sure how they're going to perform next year. Typically, Service Academy teams, they're all pretty much good every 4 to 5 years when they have a ton of really good seniors. But there's really not a ton to expect from them. I'm gonna just say average to start off with. I don't think they're gonna be bad. I don't think they're gonna be great, but I think average is fair. Akron, they haven't really been that good in the MAC. Probably one of the worst teams in that conference, if not college football. So I'm gonna put them in awful. Alabama, Crimson Tide. Obviously got Kalen DeBoer, new head coach over there at Washington. Did a fantastic job at Washington. Went 11-2 his first year, and then went to the national championship his second year there. And previously, before that, he was at Fresno State, where he had them, contending as a Group of 5 team and upsetting Pac-12 teams from time to time. So Kalen DeBoer, obviously, he can develop very good offensive mind, and obviously he can coach. Got Washington to the national championship. But with him, there's going to be, some uncertainty with him at Alabama. I don't think it's going to be from his ability to coach, but the roster is also extremely talented. Even with the exodus of players leaving, that's still one of the top 2 talented rosters in college football, if not top 1. So the talent's still there. Still has Jalen Milroe. Had some big wins, being able to get people like Ryan Williams to recommit, and also acquiring a good staff there. There's a really good staff he's putting together there at Bama. Nick Saban's still there, as a CEO or GM role. So I don't think there's going to be too much of a drop off for them. I'm not going to put them as a playoff lock because there's just too much uncertainty with them, but they are a playoff contender for sure next year, especially in the 12-team playoff as it expands. Now we're going on to Appalachian State. This team has been known to upset people, Michigan, A&M. They're just known to be that team to maybe, make some noise. They're obviously in the Sun Belt, which is become a pretty good conference as of late, with teams like James Madison and Texas State making some noise, and their resurgence in Coastal Carolina. Appalachian State, I think there will be a solid team. I think they'll probably compete for the Sun Belt, so that would put them in like a solid bowl team. I don't think they'll have enough firepower to potentially be a playoff contender, because obviously you guys know the highest ranked Group of 5 team will be a playoff team. So I don't think they have that kind of firepower yet to make a push for that. But I'm gonna put them in the solid bowl teams for now. Now we got Arizona State. Not Kyle Whittingham. I'm gonna look up Arizona State's coach because I know his name, just not registering with me right now. So I want to be accurate with this and talk about them because they're making some moves over there for real. Kenny Dillingham, that's his name. Yeah, interesting with Arizona State. I mean, they obviously didn't have the year they wanted last year. I think they went Arizona State football. Let's see their schedule. Mm-mm-mm. All right, let's see here. 2023. These ads be popping up. 2023. We're gonna go to that. Yeah, so they went 3-9 last year. But it's a tough year for them. The recruiting class, they had Jaden Rashada, and he ended up getting hurt. He actually won the starting job there. Ended up getting hurt, so that kind of derailed their season. And they're just kind of in a rebuild year, so it was going to take some time. But they have a really good transfer class. I mean, if I can pull up 247, hold on. Uh, uh, uh. Dang, this website is kind of bad. All right. All right, so in this transfer portal class, I mean, they've gotten some really good pieces coming in. Just kind of going through and looking at it. They got like Raleek Brown, transfer from USC, was one of the best players in the country when he was coming out of high school, 5-star. And then you just got a bunch of good additions. He's kind of the one that sticks out, but you got like Cole Martin, transfer from Oregon, cornerback, and obviously they beefed up the defense and the interior offensive line. So if they can stay healthy and obviously coming into a new conference in the revamped Big 12, I think they can make some noise. I still think they're going to be average. The Big 12 is going to be pretty deep, but don't be surprised if they are pushing for a conference title spot. Now you got Arizona. Team's kind of a wild card. I mean, Jed Fish just left, took the head coaching job at Washington. They have obviously Noah Fafita at quarterback and McMillan. Is that his name? No. Oh, so many players you just forget. Arizona football receiver. Yeah, it is McMillan. I thought his name started with a T, but that's his first name. But McMillan, very, very, very good quarter or receiver. I think he'll be a first round guy in next year's draft. No Fafita is obviously extremely accurate. Good football team. They lost a lot of players to Washington, obviously with Jed Fish taking the job, and but they maintained the quarterback, they maintained the receiver. They're also going into the Big 12, which I think the conference is wide open. I think Arizona, since they kept some key pieces, will be able to compete in the Big 12 right away. So I'm gonna put them in that solid bowl team spot for right now. Arkansas State Red Wolves, you know, Butch. I think his name is Butch Jones or Butch Davis. The coach that used to be at Tennessee, he's their head coach now. They started off pretty bad last year. Obviously, got blown out by my Sooners 77-0, but they rebounded and ended up making a bowl game last year in the Sun Belt, tough conference. Average team though. I think they'll be decent over there, but I don't really see them doing anything of making noise. Arkansas. Now for you Razorbacks, I think it's gonna be a down year for Sam Pittman, and I don't think he will be there at the end of the season. Just with the SEC, with the way Arkansas is recruiting, I don't think they have a roster that is capable of the gauntlet of the SEC. And he's kind of on thin ice, is what they've been saying. I like the guy, but I think this is a 4 or 5 win team at best next year. And if they can make a bowl game, that would be great. But that's kind of where I have them slotted. Army, I don't know too much about them, so I'm gonna just put no clue for now. Auburn, you obviously have Hugh Freeze there, very very good coach. Even though people feel a certain way about him, however you feel, but one of the best offensive minds in college football. He's recruiting extremely well. I think they have the number 8th recruiting class of recent. So I'm gonna look at that and just kind of go in depth about that. We're gonna go to these recruiting rankings. Yeah, so this past year, Auburn had the 10th best class. They had two 5 stars, Cam Coleman, receiver out of Alabama, and then they had Amaris Williams, edge rusher out of North Carolina. And then they ended up bringing in one, two, three, four, five more blue chips as well. So blue, if you guys don't know what blue chip is, that means a four or 5 star. So seven blue chips onto the roster. Cam Coleman, you got some guys that are probably make a difference right away. Cam Coleman was the fifth best player in the country according to 247, second best receiver in the country. So obviously, like I said, Hugh Freeze is being an offensive mind. Auburn is kind of a wild card team. I think their success really is determined off the quarterback and how well the quarterback does. So that'll kind of give like kind of what I think, like that kind of will determine if they'll make a playoff or not. I think they can win 8 games. I think they can win 10 games. I'm kind of just unsure about them, but I think solid bowl team. I'll put them in there for now. Ball State, no clue. Baylor, they just Dave Aranda. I would say he's on the hot seat if they don't perform this year. Obviously, he won a Big 12 title with Matt Rule's roster, but that was Matt Rule's roster. That wasn't his roster. So obviously, they've been struggling of late, and I'm not too sure how he's going to do. The offense has been an issue there. They obviously hired one of the best up-and-coming young offensive coordinators out of Liberty, and then they ended up getting the quarterback from Toledo who put up some crazy numbers last year. So then again, they're also in a tough conference. I think there's realistically 10 teams in the Big 12 who can win the conference next year. So I'm going to put Baylor in average teams for now. Boise State, I think they're a playoff contender. They got Malachi Nelson. They ended up getting hot last year after they fired their coach. Very, very good team. They're obviously in the Mountain West, so the conference isn't too difficult. But I think with the talent they have and kind of the trajectory of Boise State, and now with the highest ranking Group of 5 team getting a playoff bid, I think they could be a playoff contender in the new format. Boston College, I was actually higher on this team, but then their coach just became the OC for the Packers, or DC for the Packers. So, honestly, I think they're gonna probably be pretty bad. I'm gonna say awful, just because there's a lot of change. Bowling Green, no idea. Sorry for you, Max Schools. Buffalo, no idea. BYU, they're I think they're gonna be another 4 or 5 win team. I mean, I don't really see, even with Texas and Oklahoma leaving the Big 12, I don't really see anything they do that's gonna be special with them. I just think they gotta kind of build their roster, and it's harder to recruit at BYU anyway. So I don't really see them doing too much. Cal, I think they're interesting. I think Cal's an average team. I think they're going to the ACC. It's a different brand of football, but I think they might do all right. I think they'll be average, maybe make a bowl game. Central Michigan, no clue. Charlotte, no clue. Cincinnati, I think another team that will not be the greatest. 4 or 5 win team. They weren't that good last year. I think they have a good foundation of recruiting, but I think it's going to take a couple years for them to really get their footing in a Power 5 conference. I think reality really hit them last year, and they had a tough time in the new Big 12. Clemson, playoff contender. Obviously, people are kind of down on Clemson and what they've been recently, but Dabo Swinney is Dabo Swinney. He's won 2 national titles. They have Garrett Riley there with Cade Klubnik. So obviously, hopefully they can finally, find the offensive footing they need. Defense is still really good. I mean, Clemson's still recruiting at a crazy, insane level. Had the 11th best recruiting class last year, compiled with this past class with 2 5-stars. TJ Moore, wide receiver out of Tampa. Then they had Christian Butner, tight end. So a ton of blue chips on the roster. They obviously signed Sammy Brown, best linebacker in the country, to a lot of folks. So really good football team. I think they'll be a playoff contender, just depending on how Florida State looks in Miami. Coastal Carolina, I think they'll be average bowl team. I think they were good for a while, but I think the Sun Belt is turning a page. Colorado State, average team. Colorado, I'm higher on them than most. And I think it's because of what Deion's doing, honestly. Obviously, in the transfer portal rankings, they were number 4 overall in the transfer portal rankings. So they've overhauled the offensive line, which is really their concern. They have a ton of skill players, but they brought in a bunch of offensive linemen and defensive linemen to upgrade that roster. So they got that intact. Obviously, they're not recruiting crazy well. They had a pretty bad recruiting class, but they only signed. Let's see here. They didn't sign that many kids. There's no way they're not in the top 100. That would be crazy. Wow, they're not in the top 100. Their recruiting class is that bad? Okay, Colorado had the 119th best class in the country, but they signed one, two, three. They signed 7 players. And what I would say to that is they signed 4 blue chips right there, like out of those 7 players. So obviously Prime isn't really building up a solid recruiting foundation, but I think he's trying to fast track and win now to eventually either leave or to build up Colorado into more of like a stable program. But I think the roster is just so bad, and he just wants to improve right away. And also he's just Coach Prime, like he can kind of recruit and get anyone. But you obviously have Shadur there. You obviously have Travis Hunter there. Those are 2 top 10 prospects in next year's drafts. So that already is gonna pit them in games, especially in the Big 12. Obviously, Big 12 is gonna be very, very competitive. I think they're a solid bowl team, and I could see them even potentially pushing for a playoff spot, depending on how their season goes. Delaware is a new team to FBS, so no clue. Duke, they just hired Manny Diaz. They also got Malik Murphy over there at quarterback. So I'm gonna put them in average team. You have a good defensive-minded head coach that kind of leaves what Elko left there. And then you obviously have Malik Murphy, a really good talent that can go to Duke and maybe play really well right away. ACC is kind of top heavy. There's really not a ton. It's like Florida State, Miami, Clemson, maybe North Carolina State, and then everyone else is kind of just there. So I think Duke can definitely maybe make some noise, maybe push for that solid bowl team. But uncertainty with Manny Diaz there. Eastern Michigan, no clue. Eastern Carolina, no clue. FIU, no clue. Florida Atlantic, no clue. Florida State, playoff contender. Obviously, DJ Ugalele's there. Norvell's gotten that team, back to relevance, back to prominence. I don't know if they're a playoff lock because of the new format and stuff, but I do think they're a contender. It's really hard to say who's like a lock for the playoffs because, there's just so many uncertain questions, and I want it to be teams that really, do well. Florida. To be honest, I think with their roster and whatnot, they could be an average team, but their schedule is so hard. So I got to put them in the 4 to 5 teams. They have one of the hardest schedules in the country, which I'll be making a video on that shortly. Fresno State, always a decent team. I think they're a solid team, maybe even a playoff contender depending on how they play, how they finish off the season, but solid group of 5 team always. No clue for Georgia Southern. No clue for Georgia State. Georgia Tech, I think this is going to be an average team. I think they're recruiting well. I think they started playing good football towards the end of the year. The ACC, like I said, is a kind of a wide open conference, but I think they're an average team that can maybe win 8 games next year. Georgia, playoff lock. I mean, Kirby Smart and what he is doing over there. Top notch. Kirby Smart is that guy, so they have obviously a tough game coming to Austin, and then they have Alabama. They have a couple teams on there, but returning Carson Beck and who they have at quarterback, I just think Georgia is a playoff lock in the new format. Hawaii, I don't know about the Rainbow Warriors. I'm gonna just pick 4 to 5 wins. Houston, I think they're gonna be another 4 to 5 win team. I think they have a chance to be decent, but they just have a new head coach from Tulane, even though a good head coach. I still think they need to kind of find their footing coming from the American Conference. Illinois, I think another 4 to 5 win team. I think they kind of peaked a couple years ago with Bill Bielema, but I don't know how they're going to do. They probably lost a lot of guys, and the Big Ten is just getting more difficult. Indiana, awful. Iowa State, I think they'll be a solid bowl team. Matt Campbell, shows that he can coach, and he's able to, compete in the Big 12. I think they're going to be one of the teams competing for that Big 12 title next year, or in the mix. And obviously they did pretty good on offense and a pretty good team. Iowa, Solid bowl team. Iowa, we know they always play great defense. Their question is offense. They can deliver an offensive product that is comparable. They could be a playoff contender because how good their defense is. They obviously made it to the Big 12, uh, or the championship last year, not the Big 12, the playoff championship, or the Big 10 championship last year. So this is a team that could, maybe make the playoffs, but I'm not sure. James Madison, they were good last year, but they just got a new coach. So we're going to go to average team. Jacksonville State, average team, really good team to start off, their campaign last year in FBS, but good team. Now Kansas State, playoff contender. I think this is a team that will be well in the mix for the playoff, especially in the Big 12 title, and a very good team. They have Kansas State is always very hard, tough out in the Big 12. Now with Texas and Oklahoma leaving, makes them even more of a relevance, and they obviously have Avery Johnson, highly talented quarterback over there. So they can make some noise. Also pitting Kansas as a playoff contender. I think with Jalen Daniels coming back healthy. Obviously, you got Lance Leipold over there, fantastic coach. What he's doing over there at Kansas. I think they're really starting to believe, and I think in this newly revamped Big 12, if they can handle their business, they can maybe push for winning the conference and maybe making the college football playoff. Kennesaw State, no clue. They're very new here. Kent State, no clue. Kentucky, I'm gonna say average team. I don't really think they'll do too much, but Mark Stoops always has them playing good football, good defense. Liberty, they had one of the easiest schedules last year, so I'm gonna say they made a solid bowl and they have the QB coming back. I don't think they're that good, but they have their QB coming back, so I'm gonna put them in solid bowl teams. UL Monroe, no clue. La Tech, no clue. The Raising Cajuns, no clue. Louisville, yeah, Louisville. They made the AC championship last year. I think they're kind of going to regress, but they are kind of recruiting well. But I'm going to put them in average teams for now to be safe. LSU, I think, is a playoff contender. Obviously, they have a very talented roster and team, but there are some questions there, some uncertainty there. But when you have the roster that they're able to compile with Brian Kelly, they might make a push. But they're losing Neighbors, they're losing Brian Thomas, they're losing Jaden Daniels. So we'll see. They're kind of uncertain. I think I'm gonna move them down. Solid bowl teams. I think there's just too many unanswered. There's too many like questions there. I'll put them to the front though, because I know how people will be. Marshall. Shout out to the boy, Lil Donut, man. He's at Marshall, transferred out over there. I don't know too much about them, but I'm putting them in average. Maryland, I think they're gonna be not great. 4 to 5 win teams. Obviously, two of his little brother is leaving, and they're in a tougher Big Ten conference. Memphis, I think, is a solid bowl team. I think they can make some noise in the American and push for that potential playoff spot. Miami of Ohio, no idea. Miami, another team I think is a solid bowl team. I think Mario Cristobal can maybe make some noise. I just don't know if they have enough firepower to match Florida State and Clemson to make the playoff next year. Michigan State, they have Oregon State's new coach, but I think 4 to 5 win. There's just a lot of transition and not too sure there. Michigan, playoff contender. I mean, I don't know. They lost a lot of guys. I might move them down, but Michigan, solid bowl team. I think it'll be it's their coach's Sharon Morris, his first year as a head coach, but I think there's just a lot of unnecessary questions. They have Donovan Edwards still, but you have Blake Corum leaving and JJ McCarthy in the offense. The defense is gonna be really good, but I'm not too sure they're a playoff contender yet. So actually, I'll move them in here because the playoff is expanded. I keep forgetting that, so I'll just move those guys up there. Now we have Middle Tennessee. No clue. Minnesota. I think PJ Fleck has them. I think they'll make a bowl game, so average team. Mississippi State, Jeff Levy's first year. I don't think they're going to make too much noise. 4 to 5 win team. Good offense, I bet, but I don't think they'll make too much noise. Missouri, playoff contender. Obviously, we don't like them over here, but Eli Drinkwitz has them, playing good football from last year. They went all in the portal, returning a lot of players. Might have one of the best wide receiver combos in the country with Luther Burden and Theo Weiss. They got Brady Cook as well, a quarterback, and then they got a lot of people in the portal. So definitely a playoff contender for sure. Probably move them up a little bit. Navy, no clue. NC State, average team. Potential solid bowl team. I'll put them in solid bowl team. I think they're decent. They might compete for the ACC championship. They might make some noise. Nebraska, I'm higher on Nebraska than most, man. I think a solid bowl team as well. I think if Dylan Raiola can really be like what they need over there, that they could really be good next year. Obviously Matt Rule hasn't playing good defense. They just really need a quarterback, and they kind of got to figure out that situation. So Nevada, no clue. Mississippi or New Mexico State, no clue. New Mexico, no clue. North Carolina, average. I think they lost a lot, and I think they're kind of regressing. Put them at average. North Texas, uh, no clue. No clue for Northwestern. They surprised people last year. I still think they're a 4 to 5 win team. Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman, playoff contenders. The roster is good. Um, and they just got Riley Leonard at QB, so they're going to be up there in the playoff contending mix. Old Dominion, no clue. Ohio State, playoff lock. I mean, that roster is ridiculous. They returned to everyone, and they took Michigan winning the national championship very personal. So I got them in the playoff lock. Ryan Day, even if they don't win the Big Ten, I think they'll make the playoff lock. Penn State, contender as well. Obviously, they would the 12 team playoff would have been a thing. They would have made the playoffs every year. So I have them as a contender. I mean, they just can't beat Michigan and Ohio State, but they can beat everyone else. So Ohio, no clue. Oklahoma State, playoff contender as well. I mean, they always find a way to just be very, very sneaky good. Now with Oklahoma and Texas out, I do think they'll be one of the perennial favorites year after year in the Big 12 to win it all. Oklahoma as well, playoff lock. I got to put them in here, man, and kind of just, I'm going to rearrange this for these folks out here, man. They're getting all butthurt. Um, Oklahoma, man. Obviously, what people aren't talking about with Oklahoma, returning everyone on defense. Jackson Arnold on offense, right? Highly coveted 5-star quarterback. Obviously, he's very good. The Alamo Bowl is a small sample size. Yes, he turned the ball over, but he looks like a freshman in his first start. So, like, any Texas fans or any other fans that are claiming that he's not good just don't know football, point blank, period. The picks he was late on, it wasn't like he doesn't know where to go. Returning one of the best wide receiver rooms in the country with Jaden Gibson, Nick Anderson, Deion Burks, Jalil Farouk, Jaquez Petaway, Gavin Freeman, like, loaded. Then at tight end, you have Donovan Mitchell, who was the number one overall tight end in the class of 2025 before he reclassified. Number one running back, Taylor Tatum, coming in. Then you obviously have Gavin Sawchuk, who, had a great last second half of the year. You still have Javante Barnes there if he can get healthy. Caleb Hicks. So deep backs. The offensive line is what they say is concerning. But yeah, the best offensive line coach in America. So there should be no uncertainty there. And then the defense is going to be absolutely loaded. Best safety room in the country: Billy Bowman, Peyton Bowen, RSJ. A corner, you got Kendall Doby at Cheetah. Justin Harrington, he gets his waiver. Deshaun McCullough. And then a corner, you got Woody Washington. You got Zaire Wagner, Makari Vickers. And then defensive line, obviously brought in 4 blue chippers: Nigel Smith, Jaden Jackson, David Stone. Then you got new freshmen coming in like Danny Okoye. And then you brought in Wooler from the portal. You brought in, you have R. Mason Thomas still. You still have Trace Ford. You still have Ethan Downs loaded. And then the linebacker, obviously Danny Stutzman, Kip Lewis, Jaron Canick, Lewis Carter. Like, team is loaded on defense, and they actually have the depth. So if the offense can click, they're a playoff contender. Ole Miss, playoff contender as well. Like I said, they're like Missouri. They went all in the portal, and they got a ton of players there, and they're gonna be a lot to deal with. They're gonna have a ton of talent on the field. Oregon State, I'm gonna have them in awful. I just think there's too much transition period going on for them. Oregon, playoff lock. My boy DG went there. They obviously have Evan Stewart, very good roster, and Dan Landy's not playing with them, man. He really wants them to be good, and they're going to be in a new conference, but I think they'll make the playoffs. Pitt, I think they're going to be an average team at best. Purdue, 4 to 5 wins. Sorry, Hudson. Uh, Rice was decent last year. But 4 to 5 win team. Rutgers, I think they'll be average. They're playing good football there. They're kind of molding into their identity. Sam Houston, I think they'll be better, but not great. 4 to 5 win team. San Diego State, really no clue about them. San Jose State are average team. I think they're solid. SMU, solid bowl team. They're obviously going to be in the ACC new conference, but they're recruiting really well. And they obviously have Preston Stone coming back. So if he's healthy, I think they can make some noise in the ACC. South Alabama, no clue. South Carolina, tough conference. Recruiting really well, but tough conference. I think they'll be an average team. I think they need to just kind of get their footing in. South Florida, no. I think they'll be average as well. Southern Miss, no clue. Stanford, no clue. Stanford 4 to 5 wins. Syracuse, they have Kyle McCord, so we're gonna put them in average. TCU, I think they have a bounce back year. I think they'll be an average to solid bowl team as well. Big 12 is wide open. I'll put them right there with Baylor. Temple, no clue. Tennessee, people are pretty high on them. I just got to see more. I think solid bowl team to maybe playoff contender, but they do have an easier schedule than most. A&M, I think A&M will be average as well. New coach, but the roster is still pretty talented, so I have them towards the top of that. Texas State, I think they'll be a solid bowl team. I think they have really doing really good over there with DJ Keen, and I think they should be one of the favorites to win the Sun Belt next year. Texas Tech as well, solid bowl team. I got them maybe playoff contender if they can, put it together and win the Big 12, but they just got to show me before I give them that. Texas, a lot of people think they're a playoff lock. I don't. I'm going to put them in, where are they at? I'm going to put them right with Oklahoma, Bama, and all of them. Obviously, they're returning a lot, but what people aren't talking about is you can bring in, transfers and things like that, but they got to, pan out on the field. You also lose your two best defensive players in the interior defensive line. That's not easy to replace. And the secondary was a big concern last year. Regardless of bringing in talented freshmen and talented transfers, they have to pan out. And, there's just a lot of question marks, more question marks than people think. And I think people are more high on the fact that Texas went to the college football playoff and made it. But what they're losing and, the going to the SEC. Now, their schedule is very favorable. They really don't have to play anyone as opposed to us. They play Georgia at home, but then they have Michigan at a conference, but everyone else is pretty easy. You got the weaker SEC schools that they have to play. So the schedule makes it favorable. I think they should make the playoffs, but I'm not as high on them as everyone else is. Toledo, I don't know. They lost their quarterback, so I'm going to put them in. No clue. Troy, no clue. Tulane lost their coach, but I think the roster is still solid to an average team. Tulsa, I think Tulsa will be all right. I think they'll be average. UAB, isn't Trent Dilfer there? So I'll give them average. I think they got a good coach. UCF, I think they're going to be a pretty solid bowl team. Gus Malzahn obviously can coach. They're recruiting really well there now with the Power 5 backing. And you got KJ Jefferson going over there at quarterback. That kind of fits that offense. Stacey Gage is there, so they got a good offense. I think they'll be solid. UCLA, I think they're gonna struggle. Dante Moore left, Chip Kelly left. I think they're gonna struggle in the Big Ten. I think I got them going in that 4 or 5 win category. UConn, no clue. UMass, awful. They're always bad. That's the team you use on your NCAA rebuild. UNLV. They were pretty good last year. I'm going to put them in average. So I think they can maybe continue to replicate that success. USC, I'll put them in playoff contender, and I'm going to tell you why. I think with Miller Moss, I think with the talented roster they have on offense, it's still Lincoln Riley. He actually has addressed the defensive needs by making some crazy hires. Now, obviously, they have to pan out, but USC has a roster talented enough with the right coaching to maybe make it pan out. They are in a tougher conference, but I do think they are a playoff contender. Just with you're never out of a game with Lincoln Riley as your OC or head coach. Utah State, we're gonna put them in no clue. University of Utah, definitely. I think they might be a playoff lock. Honestly, that team is just they're very hard to beat. They're also going now into the Big 12 where they are just so well coached. And they're going to have Cam Rising coming back for his 80th season. So, like, they're going to have, talent. They're going to have veteran experience. I do think they maybe get to the Big 12 championship, if not win the Big 12. So I got them in the playoff lock. UTEP, no clue. UTSA, solid bowl team. They obviously changed things around over there. It's a solid team down there in San Antonio, and they play good ball. Vanderbilt, they're going to be awful. They're always awful. Virginia, 4-5 win team. Virginia Tech, I'm higher on them than most people are. I think they're kind of starting to play back to that good football that they used to play with Beamer. And I think in a interesting ACC, they might potentially make some noise. Wake Forest, I got them as an average team. Washington State, I'm just gonna put no clue, and I'm gonna bring Oregon State down there because there's no clue. Washington, yeah, they lost their boy DeBoer, but they got Jed Fish there. They have Will Rogers there. They're gonna be a playoff contender. Roster's still good. Washington has the resources. They're always a solid team. West Virginia, they're gonna be a solid team as well. Neil Brown actually made some great strides there. Got that team playing good football towards the latter half of the year, and I think they're going to be in the mix for the Big 12 title. Western Kentucky, I just saw, the other day I saw them. I was like, they put out a lot of quarterbacks, a lot of good quarterbacks, or not good, but like NFL caliber quarterbacks. So I'm putting them in average. Western Michigan, no clue. Wisconsin, I think Luke Fickell will have them playing better football. I think they'll be a solid bowl team. I'm not too sure about playoff contender yet. Solid bowl team though for sure. In Wyoming, last but not least, I'm gonna go no clue. So if you guys like this video, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe to Opinionated Sports. I'll be doing more tier lists like this throughout. Going into college football season, kind of breaking stuff down, but just want to do some different types of videos for you guys. And quick little rundown. I know people like the tier list. And yeah. So that'll do it for your boy Cam over here at Opinionated Sports, and I'll catch you guys for the next time. Peace.